right. Hello and welcome to episode 58 of the Rhody podcast. Today I am joined by the University of Rhode Island Rams pitching coach Dave Fischer. Thank you so much for taking the time again. And how are you today, Coach?
I'm good. Just getting off the field. We're doing our first week of youth camp this week. So I've got about 85 kids running around the field and keeping them entertained. But yeah, busy.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to ask to start, what ways have you been keeping busy this summer and, preparing for the next season?
Yeah, obviously, first and foremost, it's recruiting mostly. Baseball's the recruiting schedule is a lot, just a lot of games. But it's even tougher because it happens right away when our season ends. So as soon as our season's over, we have to flip from coaching mode right into all right, we got to go out and make sure we're looking for the right players and start recruiting players for the next classes we have coming in. So that's obviously been the thing that's been the foremost important thing going into the summer is the recruiting time period. Summer baseball is huge. That's mostly the summer. But we have our camps and then youth camp. We do 2 weeks. We have one this week and then one the second week in August too. So that's most of the time. You try and find some free time for yourself somewhere in there too.
100%. I mean, you're living in Rhode Island, so you got to hit up the beach, right?
Oh yeah, you got it. It's one of the selling points of the school. I mean, we're so close to the ocean. It's such a beautiful area. That's why I've fallen in love with it. Yeah, spoiled to live here. You're going to you yep. Definitely understand. Probably better than me, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going into my senior year, so I'm looking forward to that last year of being up there. And it was kind of crazy. I was telling Zach this on the last episode of the podcast, but for me, I came in as a freshman in 2019. So that spring semester was when COVID hit. And then the following year, I think we were sent home while the season was going on. So my first year actually getting to watch the team, watch the program, and cover it was this past year as a junior, which I didn't think it would take 3 years to actually watch URI baseball. But I'm glad I was able to do it and fit it into the 4 years that I'm there. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it was fun for you to cover this year for sure. But yeah, that's crazy. I hadn't even thought about that. And obviously Zach was in the same boat coming in. And I remember just we were driving down to Delaware to play them, and we had to turn around right when COVID happened. So I feel for those guys, and I think it's helped out a little bit. They got the extra year, but it's still, you're right, all those experiences you could have had, but hey, we're here now, right? Ready to go.
Right. We'll put that behind us, and we'll talk a little bit more about where you are now and how you worked up to getting this role at URI. But first question I like to ask all the guests that come on this show. The question I really love to start with is just what is your why, or what motivates you?
Great question, man. I ask the players that frequently, not as much as I probably should, but that's an unbelievable question. I loved baseball my whole life. It was always something that was a dream of mine. My goal was obviously to play professional baseball, be a Major League Baseball player from age as soon as I could remember, sort of thing. I grew up during the 90s, the Yankees, the home run race, when baseball was kind of in its heyday. Yeah, during the steroid era, but it was exciting. I grew up around that, and I thought it was a ton of fun. And so I guess mostly because I love baseball. That's the number one reason why I'm doing it. But two, all the best role models I had my whole life were all coaches. And pretty much everything that I accomplished in my career, I can attribute to a coach that helped get me there. I worked hard on my own and did things, but if I didn't have the leadership and the coaches to kind of guide me along the way, I would not have even come close to where I got to. And that's high school coaches. That's Little League coaches. It's every level. And I got really lucky in that way. So I like to think that I want to do the same thing, or be able to share the same experience with someone else, because I was blessed. I really was, in terms of the people that were around me in my life, and the coaches and everything, just every bit of my athletic career. I got really lucky. And maybe kudos to my parents for doing that. But I think giving back, working with kids, coaching something that I love to do, that's my main motivator. And then obviously I think this one goes without saying, but winning baseball games, that's a huge motivator, and competing. I'm a super competitor. I don't want to lose. I tell our guys, like, hey, you're playing your little cousin in ping pong, beat him. Like, Don't let him win. Like, teach him too. Like, hey, like this was going to happen. Obviously, you're not bullying him, but hey, make it competitive. Make him strive to beat you. Don't just let him win easy. Like, you got to make him earn it, and that'll create that competitive drive, I think, within them too. So that's kind of my why. So giving back, helping out because of what I had, and loving baseball, and then of course competing. Got to compete.
Of course. And I mean, I love what you talked about there from the coaching side of just kind of paying it forward. I want to get into, your playing career and, some of the levels that you played at, but now being able to take what you've learned over the years and apply it to, the players that we have at the University of Rhode Island. I find that so interesting. So many players now transitioning into coaches. That's a great motivation. I mean, throughout life is just to educate and to continue. It's just it's outside of sports. It's really just in life that, you pass on what you've learned to younger generations. And then the hope is that they'll pass it on and continue to, carry on the legacy. And, I think that's what's so special just about the game of baseball. And I mean, even just from this last week in the All-Star game, watching, some young kids asking, I don't know if you saw the interaction with Clayton Kershaw and the little kid, but he had a whole interaction during a press conference with Clayton Kershaw saying, like, my grandfather, loved you, he wanted me to meet you. I just think that's so special, the kinds of interactions that you'll make throughout sports, and that's within coaching and also within playing. So that's a great motivation to have.
For sure. Yeah, I think teaching is so important. My mom was a teacher, so I learned a lot from that, and I think it goes to show how good a coach is based on the kids that kind of follow in his footsteps a little bit. Not so much that they want to be coaches, but maybe they didn't know they wanted to be a coach, and they had a coach that gave them such a great experience and really motivate them to get to another version or another level of themselves. And then that's what happened to me. Because I was a pain in the butt for a long time, and a lot of people stuck through it with me. So I try and keep that in mind. And I think being able to teach in general is a very, very valuable skill for anyone.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to start from the beginning. You mentioned you're from upstate New York, Scotia, New York. I know you were a 3-sport athlete in high school as well. You were involved in volleyball and basketball. So I'm just curious, what was it about baseball, the game of baseball from a young age that attracted you so much to it?
Yeah, I've actually thought about this a lot. Obviously, being a summer sport, being outside in the Northeast, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think the fact that we can't always have baseball like these guys have in the South, the Florida kids, the Texas kids, the California kids, the big hotbeds that you think about, the craving that we have over the winter to, I'm just waiting. And that basically kind of not being able to do it drew me to it that much more. I was really good at my other sports too. I was a really good basketball player. I was a very good volleyball player. At times I may have even been better at those than I was at baseball, but the challenge of baseball was what drove me to. It was difficult, and I'm a great athlete. I had the size. Basketball, I'm 6'5", and baseball was hard, and it made me have to think and work. And I think sometimes maybe I would have, it sounds crazy to say, maybe even had similar or more success than the other two, but it was the baseball, the challenge of it, that really is what drew me to it. And like I said, I think the ability to not be able to play it all the time and wanting to, that was kind of what really got me into it, and why baseball ended up sticking for me. Yeah,
I feel like baseball is definitely the hardest sport to play. You wouldn't think that just based off of watching it. And I played a little bit as well growing up. I wasn't very good, but it's probably one of the most challenging sports that anyone has to play. So to kind of test yourself from a young age and to challenge yourself, I think that's so cool, because it only makes you better in the end. And I feel like I'm very similar in that I like to challenge myself and do things that kind of are out of the ordinary. But from playing baseball at a young age, a lot of people aren't, they don't just wake up and they're good at it, but they have to continue to do it. Whereas basketball, I mean, you can develop a shot. I mean, anything that you do comes with practice, right? But I feel like with baseball, you have to put in 10 times more work than any other sport, because there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, it's very skill specific. Being an athlete doesn't always translate. It's a very skill specific sport. So yeah, you're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah. So you end up committing to play at UConn for college. So if you could just, yeah, I know. So I mean, If you could just describe, what went into that decision and then maybe share some of your experiences at the collegiate level. I know you also helped lead the team to the 2011 Clemson regional title. So, if you could just talk a little bit about that. And also, I guess now you bring up a good point, being a rival of URI, what is that like now to reflect on your college days? And, I guess you can't hate on your alumni. You can't hate on,
For sure. So just recruiting process. I started getting seen, I guess, sophomore year. I went to a little showcase thing, did well. Next year, I think I paid like $40 to go and basically have someone tell me, are you any good or not? And I guess that was okay. And then kind of that built some momentum. It got my name out there. I played Legion baseball. I never played a lot of the AAU travel baseball that a lot of the kids are doing now. So it was a full season. I learned what it takes for a team to win. It's not kind of just tournament style where you're collecting some kids and going and playing and trying to make a super all-star team. Is, hey, we need to develop. We need to get better. We need to go through the course of the season and learn how to play the game the right way, execute certain things and do that. So that was helpful for growing up and I think my development. But I think when it came down to getting recruited, like I said before, I was a little lucky. I got gifted some size and the build that I needed to kind of have success, and I just needed to develop as an athlete and go from there. But I think basically it just came down to feel and fit from the school. I was looking at them. I was looking at St. John's. I was looking at Albany, Binghamton, some other New York schools, and just went and visited, felt right, and kind of started from there. The great coaching staff, it's still the same head coach there as they had when I was there. They do a great job. And so that was fun. I had a great experience. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Obviously, we had some success when I was there. We had a bunch of really talented players still playing in Major League Baseball. And that helped us win a regional too. So I got lucky a little bit in terms of timing. But that was awesome. I mean, winning a championship, that's the goal. And getting a chance to play in a super regional. They did it again this year, which is really cool. It's fun to watch, obviously, as alumni. But like you said before, I'm kind of competing against them now, which makes it even more difficult. But yeah, I still like to root for them. Obviously, different conference, not when we're playing. But the championship experience is invaluable. And I think, kind of talked about recruiting before, I like recruiting kids that are winners and know how to win. Not so much kids that just win, but know how to go through the process with a team. And it doesn't even need to be baseball. It could be tennis, it could be bowling for all I care. But were you a part of something where you went through some adversity and you guys came together and then built towards a winning culture? I like finding kids like that because they just tend to learn how to find a way to win, even when things get tough. So anyways, I know I'm kind of rambling through the question here, but so, we're playing against them now. Obviously, it's fun. It's always challenging. It's a good regional rivalry. They're a bigger school. A lot of our guys get recruited by them. A lot of their guys get recruited by us. So there's some familiarity there. Our coaching staffs are friendly. And it's funny. It's most of the time, most of us coaches have a good network and we learn each other, we become friendly with each other. But when it comes to on the field, a lot of those feelings of friendship definitely go away, which is fun because I think I'm sure you have friends that you've grown up with your whole life that you compete with, and when you get one from them, it feels that much better. So
100%.
That's how I feel. It's a good strive. The kids always give it to me pretty good when we're playing them. Like, all right, hey, like, what do you like? Like, you trying to win? It's like, yeah. What are you talking about? Like, we're gonna go kick right now. Like, let's go. And get up for that series. I love it. I get up for that series. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. So it's fun. It's fun competing against them. Definitely different, but I'm a URI guy right now, which is awesome.
Of course. And that just goes back to, being baseball itself, just having that competitive factor, competitive aspect to it. Having a little friendly fire. We see it at the college level, obviously, in the major leagues. It doesn't matter. You want to hope that everyone is friends on and off the field, or off the field, but on the field, it's a different story. And it just makes the game better. It makes, there's more high pressure situations and it's more fun, when things are more competitive. So that's really cool to hear. Also, very unique too, to have someone who played for, and they don't support their alma mater as an alumni, who played at one school but rivalries in New England are something else. They're different. So
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, I was rooting for him this year. It's just when I'm playing him, I can't root for him. No way. Are you kidding me?
100%.
But it's definitely unique, but that's the fun part about it. It's the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So during this time when you played at UConn, you also played summer collegiate ball in Cape Cod, with the Wareham Gatemen. I'm from New York, so a lot of the
They
team.
tell you.
Did I say that right? Or
they tell you. I said Wareham when I got there first. They tell you right away it's Wareham. So,
Wareham.
but it's Massachusetts. There's a bunch of hams and hums, and they're all different. So you gotta ask the locals.
Right. Yeah. No. See, again, being from New York, it's definitely an adjustment. It's taken me 3 years, and I'm still trying to learn. But I guess my question for you was, what is it about baseball in New England, just during the summer that is so special?
I really do think it is the fact that we don't get to have it all the time. I think that's one of the biggest things is the poems and the well-written sports writers writing about looking outside their window at the snow and waiting for spring and all those famous quotes. Like a lot of that comes from the New England area. And if you look across Major League Baseball and front offices all over the place, there's guys from New England sprinkled everywhere in those front offices. A lot of really, really smart baseball people. And a lot of it's just a super rich baseball culture in New England, which is fun. And that's kind of why I've stuck here and stayed here for as long as I have. It's everyone is familiar with the game. They love it. And it's a lot of fun to be around. So I think that's mostly it. But yeah, the sports culture in New England is just great too. I mean, all the Boston teams, and both of us grew up Yankee fans, New York guys. But I joke around sometimes. I'm a Giants fan, but I'll root for the Patriots because it makes the town more fun, makes the people happier.
That's bold.
So,
that's risky.
Yeah, we got them twice. We're good, right?
Fair enough. Yeah. That's bold.
Yeah. So that's why I think the culture is good. The baseball is good. The culture is so strong. The baseball culture, and I don't know what got to that point with it. Obviously, yeah, I don't know, but that's just kind of what I've found. Just great. It's just a great baseball culture in the area.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, if you have become, or I guess sort of developed a love for an area and where you've played. You played baseball in college in New England. You've coached now in New England, so you've kind of developed a love for, I guess the region, even though you're not necessarily from there. And that's another thing about sports, and we'll get into it because I know you've played all over the place, at the collegiate level, professional level, everywhere. But, you don't need to necessarily be from an area to develop, I guess, like a love for, that area and what that town or what that place has to offer. And sports will take you so many different places is what I've learned from just talking to other people. So that's definitely interesting hearing, how, born a New Yorker, but you sort of have this New England to you inside of you. And, it's what sports has to offer. So, I mean, I definitely would admit that I probably have some New England in me now just going to URI as well. So, and I'm probably the biggest New York fan there is. So definitely.
Well, we're close enough. It's good. You're just getting intel on the enemy now. You're just learning the culture, bring it back.
Yeah.
You know how to.
During the summer, my friends asked me, like, you got anything on for us? And I'm like, well, they just keep winning over there. So, I mean, there's nothing we can do about it right now. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyways, following college, you were selected in the 18th round of the 2012 MLB draft by the Washington Nationals. What do you remember about being drafted? Maybe where you were when you received the call, and then also, just during your time in the Nationals farm system.
Yeah. So the drafts obviously just happened too, which was exciting. It's always a nerve-wracking time for everyone. A lot of those kids have those dreams of playing, and I was one of those kids. It's changed a lot now. There's only 20 rounds. When I was playing, there was the first time I actually got drafted. I got drafted 3 times. I had my name called 4 times. I'll get into the story a little bit, but it was I got drafted out of high school by the Angels in the 44th round out of high school. So there's 50 rounds back then. And this is in 2008, so it's not that long ago. And now they're only down to 20 rounds. They made some changes, and I think it's a good thing. But if I'm going to be completely honest, the only positive draft experience I had was the first one. And even then, most of the guys that get drafted, I think, are disappointed a lot of times. Obviously, they're excited they got drafted, but everyone thinks they're going to be a first rounder. Everyone thinks that they're better than they are. And they come in, which is good. Maybe it's by design. A lot of kids come in with a chip on their shoulder. Hey, why didn't I get picked? Why did I get signed as a free agent? Why didn't I get picked in the second round versus the 12th round? So the first time I got drafted, it was watching the draft. I was watching it at school. I didn't really know. I was kind of clueless in high school. I didn't really understand what went into it. And I remember my dad saw me stressing about it, and it was my goal, like, to that point. And so he's like, hey, like, let's get out of here. We never really did this, but we went and watched some dirt track racing at, like, a race course up in just like motor car racing in Saratoga. And it was fun. We went up. I went with my grandfather and him, and we just watched the races. It was a good time. I hadn't done it with my parents or my dad before. He's like, yeah, we'll go up. We'll have a good time. Relax, get our mind off things. And then while I was there, I got drafted. And then I got a call from the Angels scout, Greg Morehart, same guy that drafted Mike Trout, actually, the next year. Great scout for the Angels for a long time. Talked it through with my family. He was amazing, like, super supportive, like, helped us through the process, just being naive to the whole thing. And yeah, I ended up going to UConn from there. Made a decision that I was like, okay, I'm probably not ready to be an adult right now, because that's kind of what the decision is a lot of times. Like, all right, you ready to go and live on your own at 18 and travel the country and play baseball? And you like to think you are, but I was definitely not. And it was good. I went to college. I developed. I got stronger. That was big for me. I'm pretty skinny guy. Added probably 40 pounds in college, honestly, maybe more, maybe 50 pounds. And it really helped solidify myself as a pitcher. So then my junior year comes around. We were in the regionals that year. We had just beaten Clemson in the regional. We were staying down there to play South Carolina in super regionals. And during that week was draft week, but we weren't going to come home because we were so close being right there. So a bunch of us had gotten drafted. I got called in the 16th round. That the Angels actually drafted me again. And there's basically a paperwork that you have to fill out, about a half-size sheet of paper. It's called redraft paperwork. If the same team drafts you out of high school, that drafts you out of, I'm not sure what the rules are now, actually, but back then this is how it worked. The same team drafts you out of high school that had drafted you the next year. You needed to have basically like some sort of paperwork filled out. So basically they knew you weren't in cahoots, like you weren't working behind the scenes to kind of set something up. And I don't know if I lost it, if I didn't fill it out, if I never handed it in, or they lost it, or just got lost in the shuffle. But they drafted me in the 16th round, which I was pretty content. I thought I'd sign there. Big jump, obviously 44th round of high school, 16th round junior year. Like, that's what you go to college for. And then they called me back about 20 minutes later and said, hey, we can't find your paperwork. It actually stopped the whole draft. They had to like rewind it for a minute. It took someone else and then kind of continued on with it. But it was just kind of like, boom, like that. Like, all right, hey, you're not drafted anymore. So that sucked. That was really hard. And then obviously a lot of my teammates were getting drafted at the time, and people thought I'd been drafted. A lot of the teams, I would imagine, crossed my name off their board, and I fell to the Giants in the 30th round, which was great. Glenn Tufts drafted me. He's a real famous scout in New England, does a great job. Giants area scout, awesome guy. They took me. I was playing in Wareham in the Cape and was kind of going up there to try and prove myself. Did well. They ended up offering me something that I just didn't think was right at the time. And I was a little frustrated, obviously, at what had happened. So I was like, all right, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'll go back. I'll be able to be a starting pitcher because I had been drafted as a reliever. I'll get drafted as a starting pitcher, hopefully. I got to go back, pitch on Fridays at UConn, be the Friday night starter, which is cool. I was awesome. Great experience. And that really did help me. And then, yeah, like you said, my final year, so the fourth time having my name called, I didn't even watch the draft. I didn't watch it at all. I said, I've been through this. I don't want to feel these feelings. Just if I get drafted, great. I was pretty confident that I would, having gone through everything before. But I think I was playing basketball in my driveway when they called my name. My mom came out and said, hey, the Nationals. And I was like, no way, it's awesome. Like, yeah, kind of went from there, signed with them. went into it. They were an amazing organization. They gave me every bit of opportunity that I could have asked for, being a senior sign. I think it was with them for parts of 3 or 4 seasons. Had one really good year, moved through the system quick, and then I was never the greatest strike thrower, so I kind of struggled with that at times. Threw hard, but wasn't always a great strike thrower. So I'd kind of have these ebbs and flows of domination versus not the opposite of domination. But they were great. I played my first year in Auburn with them, Auburn, New York, with a bunch of really good guys I still consider friends today. And then next year was in Hagerstown, Maryland for about a month. Got promoted to the high A team in Potomac. It was actually in Woodbridge, Virginia, but they were called the P-Nats, Potomac Nationals. They're now in Fredericksburg, or I'm not sure. Both the teams I played for the Nationals aren't part of the organizations anymore. But played with them for a year and then had some injury trouble, kind of petered out after that. And then, basically, I don't know if you want me to go into the whole career here, if we were talking about the Nationals experience.
No, you can keep going. My
Sure,
next question was just about, playing in independent baseball. So if you want to continue to talk about your time with the Nationals, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I loved independent baseball. I was hurt at the end of the 2014 season. I think I got released July 1st, and then I got home around July 4th. So I had my first July 4th away from baseball in God knows how long, probably 10 years. So that was a little different. But I rehabbed back with Mike Reinhold, who's a former head trainer for the Boston Red Sox throughout the 2000s. That runs a really unbelievable facility called Champion Performance Champion Physical Therapy. I forget. It's in Waltham, Massachusetts. He does a great job. A lot of our guys will go up there sometimes to work with him. But an incredible physical therapist, does an amazing job. And he rehabbed me back. I had an elbow injury. It wasn't Tommy John. It was a nerve injury. It kind of was a funky thing and needed some specialty. And he got me back. I wasn't sure if I was going to play again. He kind of motivated me he's like, give it a go. Like, go ahead and try again. You're still young. I signed with the Bridgeport Bluefish in the Atlantic League. I went to their tryout and I waited in line, 80 kids. I had no other opportunities. I was like, all right. I got on the mound. I went 94, 94, 95 with my fastball or something like that. And then they just called me off the mound and said, hey, like, do you want to come to spring training? Like, independent spring training? I was like, yeah, sure. So it didn't take much. But I didn't last long there. I lasted about 2 weeks. I actually got, stemming from the elbow injury, I kind of got the yips, if I'm being honest. I had the yips for about 6 months, was really struggling. It was a really dark time for me, for sure. It was a tough year. Obviously having the dream end, then basically not being able to know what I was doing. So I dove pretty deep into that and figured some things out. Basically took all of 2015 off. Worked a regular job in Boston, taught me a lot about myself, a little bit better work ethic, some stuff I wish I had when I was younger. And then my brother, who played baseball at Columbia, he had played briefly for an independent team right after college in near Nyack, New York. It's called the Rockland Boulders. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're Rockland County in New York. I think they're called the New York Boulders now. And Coach Jamie Keefe, he gave me an opportunity. I gave up a grand slam my first outing. He stuck with me still. And I really busted my butt that summer to put myself in a position to hopefully get picked back up again. Had a great year, did really well. Still didn't really hear much. I had an ERA under 3 in like 100 innings. And I was like, all right, like, I don't know what I need to do. I was trying to work through that. And then I realized, you know what? I've gotten to do so many amazing things in baseball. If this doesn't work out, like, what a great way to end it. Unbelievable experience. I thought at the time, I actually went and I played winter ball in Australia that summer, which was awesome. And that was a super unique experience. And I thought to myself, you know what? Like, I'm never going to have an opportunity to really do some of these things again. Let's use baseball as a little bit of a vehicle to kind of get myself and go see another part of the world or play somewhere where I'd never get to go. So yeah, I went over there and played, and I ended up getting picked up by the Minnesota Twins after that spring. I played with one of their pitching coaches who was over there, still playing himself. This guy named Virgil Vasquez, great guy. And then Eric Cressy, who I'd been training with in the off seasons, knew their GM, put in a good word for me. I kind of put together a little highlight tape, and they signed me to spring training, and I got to play 2017 out with them, and then released at the end of the year. And that was kind of the end of it for me. And then kind of went into URL. amazing. Yeah, it was an incredible experience all around. I wouldn't have changed anything. Obviously, you go back, you wish you could do some things different. I think
100%.
everyone would be stupid to say they didn't feel that way, but yeah, amazing playing experience for sure. And like I said, that's kind of why I'm doing the stuff I'm doing now, because I would not have even had any opportunity had I not had a lot of those people that I mentioned before. And that's let alone my high school coaches, college coaches, everything.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that. So.
Yeah, 100%. You kind of touched on like 3 or 4 of my next questions about each of the levels that you were at, but we can
Sure,
still get into some of it. I know you mentioned pretty much all of it. But yeah, so my next question was actually about the Bridgeport Bluefish. I didn't realize you weren't there for, that long. But that is sort of a good bounce back coming from, the Nationals. Obviously you don't know, and that's the thing I kind of, I guess now rethinking it, like I think people who watch baseball but don't really understand because they're not, baseball players or playing at the minor league level or bouncing around. They don't realize how hard it is to stay in the minors. And, I feel like we hear about that so much, but you're always looking for another job. You're always looking to continue to play the game you love. You never know when your career is going to end. And you said that you have dealt, with some injuries as well. And being a pitcher, I can imagine Tommy John surgery, some of the other things that you probably have dealt with. It's definitely challenging. So.
Luckily, but yeah, it's tough. It is hard. I like to think I preach it to our guys a lot, and honestly, the most important thing about being an athlete and being especially part of a team sport is you're not going to remember the games as much as you're going to remember the people you played with, and you're going to remember the guys that were your favorite teammates, the best teammates you had. So I tried my best. I definitely wasn't always my best at it, but I think it helped me stick around a long time because I was a good teammate. And those guys that are good teammates are the ones that you remember going down the road. And if you're someone who maybe isn't the greatest yourself, but you're working hard and you're helping everyone else get better and you're really being a productive member of the team, I took a lot of pride in that when I got older. And I think that's probably why it works now that I'm coaching, because it's just something that I knew I was teetering on the edge all the time. I wasn't a top prospect. I wasn't someone. I had someone that had some ability, but I had to prove myself. And it's tough. Baseball's a really hard game, and just doing those things you can control versus the baseball part of it. The being a good teammate, showing up on time, being there to help out with other people, answering questions from younger guys, making sure kids aren't, especially younger players, they're not doing stuff that's going to be a detriment to them down the road. I learned that a lot my last 2 years, probably playing independent ball and then playing with the Twins. And they held on to me way longer than I thought I probably should have. But I worked hard. Worked really hard to be a good member of their organization and a good teammate. So, you can stick around a lot longer if you're a good guy, I guess. And I'm not 100%. Saying I'm a good guy, but I like to try. I tried.
Yeah, and I feel like that's just, throughout life. You want to be nice to everyone. You want to, develop connections. You want to network with people. I mean, even if you're an athlete or if you're just looking for a job or something like that, and, you want to show that, you can make it at that level, whatever level that is. But before we transition into, a little bit of your coaching career, I have a few questions about, how you got to the University of Rhode Island, what it's like right now, a little bit more about your role. I do want to touch on few of the things that you had mentioned. All I was going to say with the Bridgeport Bluefish was I did actually grow up going to Long Island Ducks games. So I was going to ask if I maybe potentially saw you pitch, but if you were only there for a few weeks, I don't know, maybe.
We played them at home, I remember. So no, probably not. Probably not. Okay. They're not a team either. All the teams I played for, none of them exist anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, no, and actually it's funny being a Yankees fan. One of the Somerset Patriots are actually now, I think, the AA affiliate. And at the time, I remember watching games. They were in the Atlantic League as well. So that's pretty interesting that, independent teams are getting picked up and are now, affiliates of major league organizations. It's really interesting to kind of watch that develop over time,
Yeah. The best independent teams are the ones that are the front offices are run the best because they don't have and not every minor league team does either, but the backing of a major league club and the ones run well, those parent clubs, those affiliated teams are going to like those teams. And hey, like if you're like, this is a good spot. And I think the Yankees too, they're looking to get some more regional teams helpful.
100%. I did have one question about your time with the Melbourne Aces in the Australian Baseball League.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we hear a lot about, collegiate athletes continuing their careers overseas. I talked to a lot of basketball players at URI. A lot of them go
Mhm.
overseas and play professionally following their time in college. So if you could just dive in and maybe, talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that experience on and off the field in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, baseball is definitely a different sport in terms of opportunities overseas than a basketball. Basketball, you can get paid well. You can make a full career out of it, a full living. You can't really do that as much in baseball. There's a
Right.
few Latin Americans do that with, or countries. Mexico's got a pretty good league that they'll pay you okay. You're not going to make an exorbitant amount of money doing it. The Venezuelan league was great. It's obviously difficult now down there. Which is tough. But yeah, Australia was amazing. They had a good pro league. They're allowed 4 import players every year. I was kind of in a unique spot. It was a World Baseball Classic year. So our manager, John Diebel, he was I forget if he was with the Red Sox or the Dodgers. I know he was with both, but he was the international scout, the Pacific scout for either, I believe it was the Red Sox at the time. I think he used to be with the Dodgers. But he was our manager, and he was the manager for the Australian national team for the World Baseball Classic. So basically he had recruited all the best Australian players to be on their team that year. So I played with Peter Moylan and a bunch of other big name Australian players. Obviously not all of them. Some of them playing professional, like Major League Baseball, and still over in the States weren't there. But the ones that were in Australia were playing on our team, which made it difficult because there was a lot of good players. And then they also had it was actually a crazy team that I think about it. Our 4 import players and I wasn't even one of them at the time because I kind of came over with the intention of working my way on. I was playing in their Division I men's league. They do like a really good state-run league for, I don't want to call it professional, but it's almost like an adult league, and the towns take a lot of pride in it. There's a state championship. There's a national championship. So all those guys would play for their town teams and play for the pro team on the weekend. But we had 2 Japanese pitchers that came and play that were playing in their professional league, the Nippon Professional Baseball League. And they can't play baseball in the month of January. So it went from basically November, December, January, and then playoffs were through the middle of February. But in Japan, you're not allowed to play baseball for the month of January. Everyone shuts down. So when those guys were going to go home, my intention was that's when I was going to join their team. So I was kind of just practicing with them. Wasn't officially a member of their team until after the new year when those guys had left. But our other 2 imports, one of them was Ronald Acuna, which was when he was 18 years old, which was crazy.
Wow.
So that was a really interesting experience, and I can't imagine being him, not even knowing the language probably well yet, and it probably felt just as foreign as America to him. But that was a really cool experience. Then we had another player with the Kansas City Royals. I forget his name, unfortunately. Good player. But when the Japanese players came over, Jeremy Guthrie, of all people, decided he was going to come, and they signed him for a couple weeks. He played 2 weeks, and then you need to play 3 weeks to play in the playoffs. He couldn't stay that long, I guess. So he played 2 weeks, and then I was added the last 2 weeks. So then they missed out on some pitching. I wasn't able to join them in the playoffs, which stunk. But I did well when I was there. I pitched, 6 innings or something like that, or maybe not even, maybe 3 or 4 innings. But that was awesome. I lived with a host family. I worked building homes with this guy, Mick Wern. He's a legend over there in Melbourne baseball world. A lot of people know him. George, it's actually kind of crazy. George Brett's son was our clubhouse manager, so I got to meet him too. George Brett came over, and that was a cool experience, picking him up from the airport with Mick and his dog, and we're sitting in a 3-seat together. So yeah, it was an awesome experience being in Australia. Really, really awesome. The baseball's great. I think it's slept on a lot over there. I think the people in Australia don't even realize how many good baseball players they have there. Pitching is definitely a little bit more advanced than the hitting, I think. But awesome experience. I was there for about 6 months. I would love to go back. It's an amazing place, and super nice people. Really, really good experience from a playing standpoint. If I try and push our kids a lot, especially if they want to play and maybe they're not ready to start the real world yet. It's like, hey, you're 22 years old, man. Like if you're a good player and you want to go play, someone will pay your ride. You can go play in France, or you can go play in Australia or somewhere. And there's leagues everywhere. One of my former players played in the Czech Republic for a couple months. professionally. They paid for him, gave him a house. It's cool. So you're not going to have the money you'd make playing basically basketball, but in terms of a life experience, world experience, they hook you up. You get really, I think it's probably almost even better because you really get assimilated into the culture a lot. I loved it. Great experience.
And being so young and being able to travel, I mean, you're never going to get that back ever again. And it's something you'll remember forever. So that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then technically you're doing your job while you're over there and making these memories and connecting with people. I just find that so fascinating. You mentioned like Peter Moylan. I don't know if you had any interactions with Liam Hendricks, but he's an Australian baseball player.
Yeah.
Now in the major leagues. But even Ronald Acuna being able to play on the same team as him, like I can't imagine, having an experience like that. And like I said, something you'll never forget. But I want to, before we go into coaching, I do want to combine a couple of the next questions I had about your playing career. Really, this time period where you were in the Can-Am League with the Rockland Boulders. You actually had 2 stints with them. So the first time around, I know you had some success, a solid performance. I could read off your line consisting of 9-3, 2.91 ERA, and a 1.31 WHIP. So I was just wondering, what led to some of the success that you had at that level? And then going to the Twins, if there's anything that you could change reflecting on this time, what would you do differently? And maybe just talk a little bit about what it was like playing for the Twins and also Rockland.
Yeah, Rockland was great. They gave me tons of opportunity. I really simplified things in Rockland. I just was diligent about my plan more than anything. I like to tell a story too in terms of preparation, because we talk about preparation a lot in coaching and how our confidence is bred through our preparation. That's where your true confidence comes from, is how prepared are you. And my last month at Rockland, our clubhouse manager left, who's in charge of laundry, vacuuming the locker room, cleaning up, putting out pre-game spread, post-game spread, refilling the water coolers, setting up for basically the guys to come in for the day. He left. He had to go back to school. And they asked, hey, we're going to pay $70 a week or whatever it was. I don't even remember. It was like the smallest amount of money ever. Then clubhouse manager. And I was just like, whatever, I'll make some more money. And sure, I'll do it. And I remember, I'm washing the opposing team's uniforms. I'm washing our uniforms. I'm doing all that stuff on top of what I'm doing to get prepared. And I tell a little bit of a crude joke. I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this or not, but
go for it.
All right. But I remember standing on the mound and I'm looking down at this kid pitching or hitting, and I knew who it was. There's only 6 teams in the league, so you get to know the guys a lot. You play them all the time. And I'm washing everyone's uniforms all the time now. I'm doing this for a month, and it was my best month of the year. The month of August, I dominated. I might have let up 1 run. And I really do attribute it to the fact that I was doing so much else on top of my baseball stuff. It made me organized. It prepared me. And that's where I got all this confidence from. But the one thing that really took me over the top was I remember just thinking to myself, like, I washed all these guys' shit-stained sliding pants last night. There's no chance they're going to get a hit off me. I've done more work. I'm looking at them right now. I literally washed the uniform that you're wearing. Good luck, buddy. And
amazing.
Yeah, that's what really gave me confidence. And a lot of baseball confidence goes so far. And even to something that had nothing to do with baseball, really had nothing to do. It was just, hey, I'm going to make a couple extra bucks a week, help out the team, be a good teammate sort of thing, help out the organization. And, learn a little bit different about like that side of it and what goes into it. And it gave me a really big appreciation to how much people put in to what we're doing as baseball players and really giving us this opportunity. And that helped a lot in terms of preparation. So that was a funny story just to kind of go from there. But yeah, mostly just because I really got in line there. And then going over to Australia, kind of carrying that over and then building into the Twins. The Twins, same thing. I was pretty diligent. I didn't know as much as I know now. And that's the hard part, because obviously you can't get upset at yourself when you haven't, you didn't know back then. And I know so much more as a coach now. So of course, I could go back and do a bunch of different things. I just didn't know what I was doing, even still at 27 years old, from like just in general. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to say now because I just know so much more. But still had a great experience with the Twins. Doug Minkiewicz was my manager. Luis Arias was on my team. Had a bunch of really good players I played with. with them, and they were awesome. A ton of fun to play for. Gave me every opportunity. Like I said, I think I got released beginning of August with them, and then I finished out the rest of that year. Just went back to Rockland. Said, all right, you know what? I'm gonna ride out in the sunset here. I loved playing. Come home, back home. My parents can come watch me pitch a couple more times. My brother can come watch me pitch, and then see what the next page holds.
Yeah, and that's a great transition. As you know, I have a few questions into how you got into coaching, and then just to wrap it all up with the rapid fire questions. But we'll start with again, after a long playing career, you just decided you wanted to transition into coaching. So I have a few things that I researched. I see that first you started in the AAU level, and then actually went back to Australia with the Springvale Lions, and then of course coming to the University of Rhode Island alongside Coach Dorado and actually your college teammate and then the pitching coach, Kevin Vance. So I guess you kind of answered this question in the beginning, but you always knew you wanted to kind of get into coaching, or was that something you had to learn over time? And then also if you can go into how you got to the University of Rhode Island and how you ended up in this role.
For sure. Yeah, great question. I didn't know that I wanted to coach. I kind of was a little combative about it with myself for a long time. I was like, because when you leave after playing, it's really hard. A lot of athletes really struggle with the identity crisis when you stop playing, because you pretty much if you want to get to the level that I got to or higher, even in college, you have to put so much of your time and energy into baseball and just sacrificing time with friends and missing important events because of what you're working towards. And that creates an identity around like, oh, I'm a baseball player. And that's tough for a lot of kids to get out of. And it's not a healthy thing. You got to have other hobbies and other activities you're interested in and stuff like that, which I did, but I was just so consumed with baseball. And I didn't know. So you have the bad taste in your mouth for sure when you're done, because you're like, what the heck? Like, I did all this work. Like, why didn't I get to the level that I needed to? Why didn't I have the success? Like, you question things, and it's tough. So I didn't know that I wanted to coach right away. And Kevin was coaching. Kevin Vance, he's at Boston College now, was the pitching coach here when I got here. He's probably my best friend in baseball. We went to UConn together. I've known him for a long time. He got the job from Coach Dorado, who had talked to Coach Penders at UConn and suggested him. And then Jim Martin, he was the associate head coach Kevin's first year here, and then he got the job at Stony Brook in New York, where he's still at. So everyone got bumped up, and they had a volunteer position open. And he asked me, he knew I just got released. And actually, between the time when I got released from the Twins, I was driving back up from Florida, and then when I went back to Rockland, I came up and visited campus, stayed around Newport for a weekend, which obviously in the summer is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'd been to the area before. I knew Narragansett okay. Just from being around it in college a little bit. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do. I think this is a good opportunity. It's Division I baseball at a good school, University of Rhode Island. It's really, really hard to get into coaching right away. I did do some other coaching stuff. I worked an AAU program that year in 2015 called Route 2, and then the Farm. I worked for both of them in Waltham, and then I think Route 2 is up in Lexington, up that way. So I did that. That's great. Working with youth kids, I think, helps you coach a ton. And then, I coached when I was in Springvale too. So I had some experience. I'd done it before. I knew I had the capacity. I had coached little league teams, like younger. I'd done lessons and stuff. So it's not that I was afraid of the challenge of it. I knew I would get into it once I did it. But it was just like, all right, do you want to do baseball? It's like, do you want to keep doing this? And that was what I always battled with. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I stayed with it. And I love coaching. And so I guess getting to URI, I got the volunteer job there. Kevin was a big help in that. He kind of came in. I met with Coach Dorado, our head coach, talked to him quickly. And then, it ended up being great. Me and Kevin were kind of two peas in a pod. We played together for so long. We lived together when we were playing professionally. He had a year of experience coaching wise, and then it was great because we kind of both learned through each other. And we had basically two pro level pitching coaches for URI. Kevin played up to AAA, played in World Baseball Classic for the Philippines. Just has a ton of World Baseball experience, just like myself. So just our combination of that was awesome. And then parlayed him into a great job, which got me the pitching coach job here. And it's worked out great. So I couldn't be happier. And yeah, that's kind of how I got here. I came pretty much right after the Boulders season, Rockland Boulders. I just came right up, moved in, and start coaching. You figure it out and you learn on the fly.
There you go. So a couple of, questions just about being a pitching coach. The first one, I know you're pretty big on mental health, and obviously that's big in pitching. A lot of guys get nervous up on the bump. So I guess how do you, cool down a guy, during mound visits who's clearly, experiencing some of the nerves, dealing with some of those tics. And then also, every pitcher has their own routine. Everyone does their own thing. Everyone's kind of unique. I listened to a great podcast with David Cohn actually through John Boy, and he, talks a lot about this called Towing the Slab. Talks a lot about, different major league pitchers and how they have their own style, their own routine. So is it a challenge, to work that into your own management of the pitching staff, working with guys individually, and then also how you're just implementing that mental health aspect as well?
Yeah, the mental health stuff is obviously important. Like I said, that it's mostly just teaching them that you aren't baseball. Like this isn't who you are. You are someone who plays baseball. You're not a baseball player. This is one part of your life, and you need to remember that. And I think that helps take a lot of the anxiety away from it, because the kid, when you're that age, and I still do it sometimes coaching, like you want to. It's not that everyone wants to do well. No one wants to do poorly, and everyone works hard. Once you're at this level of Division I baseball, if you're not working hard, you're not going to make it here. But it's that anxiety that comes from that, from wanting it so badly that you have to try and fight. So I teach a little bit of some mental health skills stuff over the winter when it gets a little chillier, and just kind of how to go through that stuff. Breathing is a big component of it. And just because it's a two-factor thing. It obviously oxygenates your blood. It helps when your blood's oxygenated. It's working better. You're going to think better when you're getting blood to your brain, and that's just stems from breathing. You're thinking better. You're making better decisions. You're making better decisions. You're making better pitch calls. You're making better pitch calls. You have a chance to get more outs. You get more outs. You get a chance to pitch more innings. You pitch more innings. The team gets a better chance to win. The team wins more games. You get more exposure. Everyone gets more exposure, and then maybe you get a chance to get drafted. And it all starts from something small. So that's kind of just a really quickly how I kind of go a lot of that stuff. So that just from the mental health stuff, that's important. And what was the second question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's just, every pitcher has their own routine. Is it challenging to work that into your own, management of the pitching staff?
Yeah, pretty much the biggest challenge, I would say. I like to have my guys have their own routines. I don't really like dictating what they do. I like having a percentage of what they do dictated to them. Like, obviously I'm the pitching coach. This is what I think I'm prescribing is going to be the best for you. But in my experience, there's way more buy-in when they're building their own routines. And if the kids aren't doing that, then they don't last. And that is what it is. We're not at the level where we're making friends and holding hands anymore. It's Division I baseball. It's the highest level of college baseball. And you're a lot closer to your dream than you think. And you need to be reminded of that, because there's someone coming down the pipeline that's wants to beat your butt. And my college coach had a saying, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And a lot of college coaches use that saying. It probably wasn't just my coach. I'm sure you heard it from someone else. And it's because someone else is getting better. Someone else is working harder. So I think there's more buy-in when they create their own routine in terms of taking ownership in their own career. If you put it on them a little bit, some thrive and some don't. But it's not my job to motivate you at this point. If you're not motivated playing Division I baseball, then we'll find someone who is, because there's a lot of players. And obviously you have to use motivation techniques in some capacity. I'm not saying I don't motivate anyone, but you need to have that motor yourself. And I got to my level, like I said, with coaches, but you have to have that drive. And having a routine is the most important thing for a pitcher. You have to do it, because if you have a routine and you go off path, it's a lot easier to get back on path. But if don't have a routine and you get outside of that, it's going to be a lot more difficult to find what you were doing again. So a lot of people think it's superstition in baseball, but more time it's just because of everyone has their routine. It's baseball is much more like a job than I think a lot. That's not true. I was going to say I think than other sports, but at the highest level of every professional sport, football, basketball, baseball, soccer, tennis, golf, they all have routines. Like that's how they got. And that's the same level with CEOs, or with me and you waking up, brushing our teeth, showering, putting our clothes on, getting in the car, hitting Dunkin' Donuts on the way to school.
Yep.
It's have a routines. And if you don't have those and you get lost, it's a lot harder. But that's the biggest challenge, and keeping the kids in line in terms of like, hey, I'm going to let you create your own routine, but I'm going to hold you accountable to it way more than I'd hold you accountable to what I do. And even I'm already holding you accountable to what I'm telling you to do a lot. So I give a certain percentage to what they do to themselves. I prescribe that, but I want them to have the freedom and the ability to feel comfortable to talk to me about like, hey, what do you think about me doing this? I think this is going to help me with that. And as I have a plan and they're doing it for a reason, I will let them do whatever they want. And because I know that from a playing standpoint, not everyone does it the same way. And even professional level trainers, coaches, physical therapists that might say, hey, that's probably not the best way to go about it, this or that. It comes down to the individual more times than not. And some of those weird idiosyncrasies work in your advantage a lot of times. And I want them to maximize that. Like you're unique as an individual and you're good because of that. And yeah, we got to build it out that way. And I want you to be the main driver of it. Because I can't watch them when they go home. I can't watch them when they're in summer ball. I can pay attention. I can catch up, but the routine that they create from themselves is going to be more easily adapted or brought to another place than if I say, hey, you have to do X, Y, Z at U or I, and this is all the stuff you have to do it here. They may not have that same stuff somewhere else. They may not have something. And that's part of it about baseball too, is you got to accept those challenges and know that, hey, it might be 35 degrees and it's the 8th inning. You haven't thrown in pro ball, and
it's always colder at Bill Beck, anyways. So.
Oh, God. Playing New England, that's what I say.
Yeah,
without a doubt in my eyes. But anyways, they just, I forget my train of thought. What was I just on?
You were just saying that if you have your own routine at URI, it has to stay the same throughout.
Yeah, so it just translates better when they go elsewhere. So if it was cold. So yeah, in pro ball, you throw at 2:00 in batting practice, and then you pitch maybe at 9:30 at night, and in the 8th inning. Like, all right, well, you better have your routine where your name gets called and you get hot really quick and you warm up, and then you have to have, if you're a starting pitcher, you maybe have a more drawn out routine. But yeah, there's multiple layers to it. So that's pretty much the whole job is what it is. Managing that, and obviously from the coaching and on-field standpoint and developing players, that's definitely the whole job. There's a lot more to it than that. But
yeah, of course. I was having a conversation with Zach maybe a few months ago, probably in class actually, because we would just talk about, a lot of times actually I would prepare for a broadcast and I would be in class, and then we'd walk down to he'd walk down for batting practice and I'd start getting my notes together. But we were talking one time, and he said something. It was like, the second you start worrying about like a home run or a big double or something like that in the middle of the game, you're just gonna lose your stuff. You just have to continue to move on. So that's another mental part of the game that is so interesting, is that you just need to stay on track, and you could give up, a grand slam, but you have to erase that quickly and continue to get 3 outs. So that's very interesting as well to me in that mental side of the game.
Yeah, it's that next pitch mindset. I mean, it's one pitch. It's similar for you guys in broadcasting. Like you might fumble something, this and that, but guess what? The game's still going on. You got to keep
100%.
talking. If you clam up and you get embarrassed to talk or get afraid of screwing up, like announcers screw up all the time. Baseball players screw up all the time. Half the time people don't even notice, and maybe you're eating yourself up about it. But yeah, you have to be able to separate. You have to be able to move on, and that's probably the biggest challenge for young pitchers is when you come out of high school, when you have D1 stuff in high school, you really don't have any problem getting anyone out. But then when you get to the same level and there's other guys that do it, that those first failures are tough, and understand like, hey, like you're getting better. Like, trust me. Like, I know you're getting hit, but it's better than walking, guys. You're throwing strikes. You're filling it up. You're giving us a chance. And yeah, you know what? You're going to give a home run. You're not in Little League anymore where you're just blowing it by. Everyone's good now. And this is what real baseball is. You're going to be challenged, and you're either going to step up to the plate or you're not going to step up to the plate. And those mental skills I talk about is a big component in that. And I talk about a lot of different strategies to work through that and different things that worked in my career and different things I've learned through reading and coaching and talking to other coaches that work for them, and just strategies to help work through that. But the best one is one pitch at a time. It's just a focus of 10 to 15 seconds. And I get on the guy a lot about that. It's a choice. It really is a choice to be able to focus. It's impossible for anyone to focus. I literally think I read it was 15 minutes is the maximum time where someone can have like an intense level of focus on something, like 15 minutes without having to like break. And that's like a long time. In baseball, really, we only focus for 10, 12 seconds at a time while you're going through your pitching motion. And then obviously you're thinking about the game the rest of the time, but maybe wane for a second. But then when you step towing the rubber, like you said with David Cohn, right when you step back in, that some coaches like to say it's like you're stepping into that force field cylinder. There's a cylinder that goes right up through the mound, through the sky. When you step out of that, you can kind of decompress for a second, catch your breath, take that deep breath, right? Get your mind working better. Let that oxygenated blood flow through your muscles too. Your body's going to work better when you're breathing. But if you're constantly locked in, focused, trying to like hyper focus all the time, it doesn't work. You got to kind of come on and off of it. And that's a skill to learn. And it took me until after I was playing to really get a good grasp on that. And that's what I really try and get through to them now. Is having that ability to turn the focus on and off. It is a choice. It is 100% a choice. And having focus issues myself, it's difficult. But you know what else is difficult? The same goal that all you guys have of playing professional baseball, playing Major League Baseball. And if you want to have a chance to get to those levels, you got to do things that are going to challenge yourself. So
100%.
Learning new things and strategies. We talk about that a lot. So yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, I have two more questions just about, being pitching coach, and then a little bit into the rapid fire questions. So move along a bit quicker to wrap up. But if you could just describe, the prep between yourself and Coach Serrato, do you discuss what relievers to put in after the starter while the game is going on, or do you kind of have a mindset or an idea how to approach it prior to the game?
So I track basically weekly and over the year, pretty much the whole year, fall, winter, spring, like the ebbs and flows of their basically weekly throwing. So we want to really only have 2 real high intensity days from a throwing standpoint. And that's dependent. That's maybe more a starter. It says a bullpen day and then a mound day because they're throwing a lot more pitches as a starter. Relievers, you might have 3 real high intensity days. So more times than not, obviously when it comes down to crunch time, you got to go with your best guys. But we want guys to stay healthy first and foremost. You got to stay healthy if you want to be able to play, right? Mel Kiper, the best ability is availability. You heard that one?
Yep.
So that's number one important. So basically, we talk about it ahead of time. Obviously you have your guys that like, hey, these are the guys we want to go to. But say that kid pitched the day before. Hey, he's down today. He's not going to be available. We'll talk about it basically around breakfast time. Like, hey, this is the guy starting today. Maybe he's going through the lineup twice. Maybe that team isn't a great matchup for him. Hey, we're going to maybe get him out a little bit sooner and go with Zach, let's say, just because you just had an interview with him.
Sure.
Zach's not really good against his team. Let's get him in there. And that comes a lot with scouting and looking over certain things. Synergy is the big scouting service we all have now. I think basketball uses something similar. But it's actually, in season, it's like the majority of the job is watching film, looking at them, you see everything. You get the signs from the catcher's legs, the pitchers are tipping pitches, you're looking at holes and hitters' swings. Like college coaches look for every advantage, and it's baseball, so there's all sorts of stuff. You go and play those big SEC schools, they got 10 interns looking to make sure you have your catcher giving good signs, and so they can't figure it out because guess what? They'll figure it out, and they'll tell their kids at second base when they get there, and they'll find a way to share the information. And I know some people might say like, oh, that's whatever, but that's the game. Like that's baseball. It's always been that way. It's a difficult sport, so everyone's trying to find advantages, and you have to be able to reverse engineer a little bit. Make sure your guys aren't tipping pitches. Make sure you're covering your bases on what you're teaching from that stuff. So. Yeah, that's a lot of what it is. But for the using pitchers in game, it usually comes down to who's available, when have they thrown last, how many pitches have they thrown, obviously how have they been performing, And then we talk about that a lot of times. And then, yeah, of course, shit hits the fan sometimes. You got to be able to adapt. And the guys know that too. They know, hey, like, I might tell you you're in there today, but things might change in game and it could be something completely different. And they know that. It's not, I hate when that happens, but I had that happen to me when I was a player. And Coach Dorado, myself, our associate head coach, Sean O'Brien, we all kind of work together on that stuff and make those in-game decisions together. Coach Rhody obviously has the final word generally, but he's great. He lets us do. We're a huge part of it as a staff. It's very collaborative, so it's great.
So are you? Sorry, last minute question I just thought of, but are
Sure.
you in the bullpen during the games, or are you in the dugout?
No, I'm in the dugout. So
Okay.
in college, a lot of pitching coaches are calling all the pitches. So I call we go through a scouting report pregame. I'll go through it with the catcher, maybe the starter. I won't go through it with every pitcher, but I basically have a sheet of paper, kind of like a defensive coordinator, and I have the scouting report written on every one of their players in terms of what I think is going to get them out. I have all their stats. I have their stats for lefties. I have their stats with righties. I have their everything. I mean, anything you could think of is probably on the sheet. Hits, average, home runs, like who are the big power threats, who are the guys that we need to beat, what pitches can get them out. And I basically have that right here. And then what we had this year was basically a headset, kind of had a little boom mic that came down. Jordan Lasky, our catcher, had a wireless Bluetooth ear set. That's a big thing.
I noticed that actually. Yeah.
Big thing in college baseball. And basically in between each pitch, I'm saying to him, hey, fastball away, or hey, curveball dirt. Just slider backdoor or back foot slider. Like we talk about those things, and he relays it to the pitcher. Just like I do with their routine, I give full ability to shake off any pitch that they want as a pitcher. I don't want them throwing something that they're not confident in. You're not going to do well doing that. And more times than not, we're usually on the same page, and it works out good. But yeah, that's what I'm doing in game mostly is pretty much game scripting and going through each pitch and having an extension of the pitcher's brain. Be like, hey, like,
yeah,
this is the data, and it's cool. It's
cool because you have the game in your hands. Essentially, you're calling what the next pitch is going to be. You know, you're kind of controlling the game. It's a little way to
like
think of it.
Yeah, it's a little like playing MLB The Show.
I was going to say that, yeah.
But it's still the pitcher.
Right.
I'll never take credit for, I called that pitch. Like I might say it by mistake sometimes, but I'm not the one throwing it. I've done it. It's hard. And that's what matters more is the pitch execution. It doesn't matter what you call. You could call the wrong pitch, but if you're executing the pitch and throwing it to where you want to, more times than not, you're going to have success. So I want them to have full power to shake off. Most of them do. Some of them like to work quick. I work quicker with them. Some like to work slower with them. But it's fun. It's definitely different. It's a lot different than when I played, and it's adapting all the time. All the SEC schools have the newest tech, and it's crazy. It's a lot. It's a little bit like a cyber war right now. Who can the best tech to kind of help them have success? But yeah, it's fun. It's cool.
That's cool. So one more question for you, and then some rapid fire questions. But lastly, you know, this is going to be your 6th season with the program, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So how do you feel, you know, about the staff, you know, or just the team as a whole heading into next season? I know there's a lot of unfinished business from last season that you guys have to handle. And, you know, I assume you guys will definitely be coming in with a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, we finished the year so great last year. I was really, really proud of the team. It's giving me goosebumps saying actually, because I was lucky. I got to win a lot in my career, and going through a losing stretch like we had at the beginning of the year. We started out, I think 0-12, and then we were 2-18. I think we were even like 3-21 at one point. We had a tough start, and we ended up finishing maybe eight games below 500 or something like that, or 10 games below, and 24 and something. I forget. I don't even remember at this point, but it didn't matter. It was more about we clinched the Atlantic 10. We were in 3rd. We saved some pitching the last weekend. We ended up finishing 4th, and top 7 make the tournament. We've had a lot of success in A10 the past decade. I think we're the 2nd winningest team in the Atlantic 10 in conference after Virginia Commonwealth. Which is awesome. And it just goes to show what Coach Dorado's done, and I'm super grateful for everything he's given me. But it's I think we're going to be good. I always think that, but it's more optimism. The real answer is you never know. Last year, I thought we were going to be really talented. We had a ton of injuries early. and you can't plan for that stuff. We had a 3-4 hitter. One of our weekend starters go down. Both of our 3 and 4 hitters were out. And then we had 2 freshmen step up huge, Anthony DePino, Eric Genther, batting 3 and 4 in our lineup, or 4 and 5 in our lineup as true freshmen going up against Tennessee, Auburn, like some of these huge SEC schools that, I mean, Tennessee was maybe, obviously they didn't win it this year, but might have been the best college baseball team I've ever seen. They're competing right there with them. So I think future-wise, we have those guys coming back. Addison Kopech, I really thought he should have gotten drafted the past few days. I felt for him, just having gone through that myself. He had an unbelievable year.
Yeah.
But I think having him back is going to be huge, and that'll be really helpful. I think he'll get a chance to play professionally when it's said and done. He'll have a chip on his shoulder now for sure. I'm really rooting for him. He'll hopefully be able to play his true position this year. He's playing shortstop for us. He's seen him catch a little bit more now. But we're really young. We have some question marks in the pitching staff for sure. We didn't have a great year last year. But we only lost a couple upperclassmen. The freshmen gained a ton of experience. We got a good freshman class coming in this year. The transfer portal's been interesting, looking to add guys there too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the season optimistically. I think we're going to be good. But like I said, you can say that one year, you never know. You never know. You never truly know until you start playing. And you want to think they're prepared. You go into every season like, hell yeah, we did it. Like, we're ready to go. And the second inning, something goes wrong. It's like, we didn't do anything right. We didn't prepare. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. So it's always a challenge. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this year's team. I'm really excited for it. The fall is my favorite, like working with them and getting to see them compete against each other and grow as a team. That's great. We're going to have another really good schedule this year. We always go and play great opponents. I think we played Virginia this year at Virginia, which is going to be a real good test. Great top 10 program. It'll be exciting. I've never been there. And then we have a few other big programs as well. And then the Atlantic 10 is interesting. We'll see. It's always wide open. It's a really hard league to win. There's a lot of teams. Richmond was great. I thought at the end of the year last year, they made a real good run. VCU has been the gold standard the past 5 years, but their head coach just left and got the head job at Notre Dame. So I don't know who they're going to get in his replace. I don't know if it's going to be the same type of program. Who knows? Davidson was the best team in the league last year. I think they're going to be really, really good again. And then, of course, our regional rivals, Fordham, one of my best friends is the pitching coach there, and Elliot Glenn. And then UMass. Those are always huge series for us. We play them every year, and we were recruiting territory is the same. A lot of the kids know each other. There's history. It's always challenging. Conference is never easy. I don't care what conference you're in. I don't care if it's SEC, the NEC, the A10, the Big East, whatever. Conference baseball is really, really difficult, and we've done well in it. And like I said, it's kudos to Coach Dorado, the program he's created. But I think, I want to say we're going to be good, but we're so far away from there. It's kind of that one pitch mentality I was talking about before. Is sure. I want to say that stuff, but I know if that's actually going to happen, I got to wake up tomorrow and get the job done from what I'm supposed to be doing on my end, because these guys rely on me, and those kids better be doing the same. Because, like I said, there's someone coming down the pipeline. Those freshmen are hungry. They always are.
Absolutely. All right, Coach. A few more questions, just rapid fire questions,
Sure.
just to wrap everything up, and that will be it. But we'll jump right in. So, if you can compare yourself, to any pitcher, professional, collegiate, whatever it is, who did you model yourself after the most?
So my favorite pitcher growing up was Mike Mussina. I always did the hop after I threw like him. I kind of got away from that, but he was my favorite growing up. I liked him. I liked Mark Pryor, just because he was tall and skinny like me, and he had like good mechanics, and obviously ended up getting hurt. And I think he's obviously doing a lot in baseball still. But he was great. I think in terms of a comparison for myself, though, I'm not sure. People used to always say I looked like Scherzer a little bit sometimes. I don't have that. He's the ultimate competitor. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. I like to think I tried to model it after that, but he's a different animal than what I was capable of. It's hard. When you get older, you try and take bits and pieces from everyone. And so I didn't want to have one guy I was stuck on, like going through, but you get to talk to these major leaguers and spring training and if you're lucky. And I remember having a really good conversation with Tanner Roark in spring training, and he would probably not even remember this. He was a good pitcher for a long time in the big leagues. I'm not sure if he's still kicking around or not. But he was a guy that didn't ever have like plus stuff. Really good strike thrower, good changeup, curveball for strikes, fastball with some run, 90, 92, maybe a little higher than that. And he was kind of preaching a lot of the same stuff I was preaching. He was like, hey, get in good habits now, get into the weight room. Like, I mean, everything you would hear. So I didn't really have one, I guess is the short answer.
Yeah,
I didn't really have one. But I tried to pick as much as I could from all the guys that I thought were better than me. And they probably thought I was annoying, but oh well.
But you know what? You crafted your own style from taking things that you liked from other people, and it worked. So,
yeah. And that's to go quick off of that. You hit it on the head. That's what you got to do. I mean, think about it even for yourself. Like, you played baseball. You probably had more than one coach as a baseball coach your short career, right? Or your young career.
My little league career. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like it's, I mean, I had my dad coach me in Little League. I had another dad coach me in Little League. I had my summer coaches when I was in middle school, my middle school baseball coach, my high school coaches, then my college coaches, my summer ball coaches, my high school summer ball coaches. You have coaches everywhere. And you need to, I tell the guys all the time, like, and it may be they take it the wrong way sometimes, but the best coach you're going to have is yourself, because you're going to have different coaches. Yeah, some are going to be good, some are going to be great, some are going to be bad. But you don't hitch your wagon to one guy. You don't just, hey, I'm going to only do it this way. This is the one way to do it. Yeah, maybe he has a lot of it figured out and he's getting you a ton better really quick. But you got to know, like, this is your thing. This is your style. You got to take a little bit from everyone and create who you are as a pitcher. So, yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, 100%. You could choose to face any batter, past, present, anyone, any level. Who would that be?
The first thing that came to my mind was Babe Ruth, just because, like, to actually, like, hey, like, can these guys actually compare to what today's game is? But I think that's a little bit more of a gimmick. I've been really lucky, man. I've gotten to face a lot of the really, really good players. I mean, Major League All-Stars. I played with good players. My last year playing, I faced in the same lineup in spring or in high A with the Twins. We were playing the Blue Jays, Josh Donaldson and Troy Tulowitzki back to back, and it's just like, right, here you go. So I think for me, I'd love to face someone like a Barry Bonds. That'd be awesome. Like, just one of the greatest ones. I faced Lindor back in the day. He was good. I mean, obviously he's very talented. I mean, I've faced Mookie Betts. I've faced a lot of really good hitters that have like obviously had a ton of success over their careers. But I think the one that would be challenged. Actually, I don't want to face Bonds. I couldn't get lefties out. He would destroy me. I would need. I just lefties ate me alive. Just didn't have that swing and miss pitch for him. And I'm thinking of guys that were really hard to face. And I think for me, I liked facing those guys because it was so challenging. A lot of the Japanese and Asian players are really difficult to face. Rougned Odor was probably the toughest at bat I ever had. And because he was, dude, are you going to like.
He just battles. I watched him with the Yankees last year. He's always up there battling. He may not be the biggest guy, but he knows how to make contact.
Dude, those are the worst. Those are the worst. But when you get them, that's what feels the best.
And he's eating up the pitch count too. Like 9, 10 pitch at bat, like crazy.
Yeah. Wearing you down. So those guys are the top. I think when you get those guys quick, those are the best feelings. You're like, oh, hell yeah. So I think having someone that would really challenge you mentally, I think an Ichiro would be cool. I was
going to say that. You mentioned Japanese, so I was going to throw out Shohei or Ichiro. But yeah.
Yeah, but they're both left-handed, so I got no chance.
There you go. Your favorite or go-to pitch to throw with 2 strikes on a guy, maybe to get him to chase?
Oh, man. I had a really good fastball. That was what I got a lot of swings and misses on. I had real good high spin rate on it. I could kind of ride it up out of the zone from like a 3/4 arm slot. So that was like what I would have to use against lefties and kind of let it take off on them that way. Righties, I'd bore it up and in on them. My slider and curveball in my later years was a really good strikeout pitch for me too. Just wasn't hard enough to really get it to the next level. But yeah, honestly, it's probably still my fastball. I was really lucky. I had a really good fastball.
Yeah.
And that was the challenge him. I could challenge him with it.
Yeah. So 3 more questions for you. I don't know if you've been keeping up with the league this year, but World Series prediction.
World Series prediction. I think the Yankees are going to win.
Hope so.
NL. Who do we got in NL? The Dodgers are going to be right there.
Mets, the Braves, the Dodgers. Yeah.
I grew up. I was in 2000. I was 10. That was really cool. Subway Series. The Yankees beat them in 5 games. My uncle had tickets to Game 7. I remember. I was kind of bummed he didn't get to go to that. That'd be awesome. I would love to see a Subway Series. Just because, like, being from the Northeast, everyone else in the country would hate it, obviously. But I think that would be really cool.
That would be cool.
So that's what I'm going to root for, I think. That's what I'm going to root for is Mets, Yankees. I know a lot of the guys, my brother's college roommate works for the Yankees. I know Matt Blake, he's the pitching coach for the Yankees. He used to work with Eric Cressy, and I used to work with him sometimes. So I know a lot of good people there.
Sure.
Mets too. I mean, Mets. That's the fun part about coaching now. As you get older, you just meet more and more people and you get to know.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
So that's what I think I'm rooting for. I don't want to make a prediction, but that's what I'm rooting for.
Sure, I'm with you. I wasn't even born. I was born in 2001, so that was the year they lost to the Diamondbacks. But it would be really cool to see a Subway Series. So I'm pulling.
My parents woke me up. I remember I was like, they put me to bed. I was 11. I was like, why can't I watch it? It was like West Coast side. And they brought me back out only to see Mariano Rivera blow the save and beat them.
So, but I don't know if that's a good way to end off this episode.
No. What's the 2 more questions?
2 more questions, right?
Yeah.
So if you have, a favorite or most memorable moment at URI, it could be a game, road trip, or even something off the field, what would that be?
Yeah, I think winning the A10 North title last year was awesome at UMass, or 2 years ago now, 2 seasons ago, excuse me. That was great. We've had a ton of awesome games and great experience. I mean, beating Missouri a few years ago was really fun down in Fort Myers. We're always playing those teams tough. We had a really good comeback down 3 with 2 outs against Richmond my first year. Ended up winning that game, tying it, and then going into extra innings. That was awesome. We had some great ones this year too. So there's so many tough ones, but I'm hoping that A10 title is going to be the big one. Those are the ones that matter to me. And not that I'm not caring about the other emotional wins or this and that, but those are all built towards winning a championship, and that's what we're trying to do. So it'll be the best moment, and it'll feel that much better having worked hard for it. So
yeah, no, that would be really cool. And lastly, as a coach or an educator, you've given a lot of advice, but what is the best piece of advice, maybe someone watching at home that you give to your players, or something you wish you knew during your time in college that you now, are preaching or paying forward to your guys?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I could go a million ways. One thing, be receptive. You got to be receptive. You got to be open to learning and getting better. It's hard when you're younger because you want to think you know better. That's a huge one. And then I think on top of that is knowing that you have a higher work capacity than you think. Like, there's so much that your mind can do for you in terms of like getting to you to where you want to do it. You just need to make that decision and be decisive. Go for what you want. Put in the effort that's going to get you there. Because when you do it, it's an amazing feeling. It's a really, really amazing feeling. And I think just learning that and learning that, hey, you have way more in the tank from an endurance standpoint, like just all of it, mental endurance, physical endurance. Like, hey, you can do this. Like, you're a Division I baseball player. There's 300 Division I teams. It's 30 kids. I mean, it's 900 players, Division I baseball or something like that, right? Or I don't even know if that math's way off, but yeah, way more. 9,000. What is it? 300 times 30? Help me out here. Embarrassing myself. 9,000.
I'm more towards English. I'm
okay.
doing a podcast. I can't do math. I can do stats. That's about it. Sports stats.
I forgot to do. It happens. My mom's a math teacher. She's gonna be pumped.
I got you.
But it's like that's amazing. And then obviously, if you do well, you're gonna have hopefully an opportunity to play professionally. Like, you're so much closer than you think. Just work, because just if you do that, you're gonna beat so many kids out just from a work ethic standpoint. And, that feeling you have when you're down or you're don't feel like doing something, you have to be able to push through that.
You got to do
one
it.
One of my favorite books is called The Obstacle is the Way. It's by Ryan Holiday. It's a little bit about stoicism and how you can apply it to your real life. But just the obstacle I think is great is you have to go through challenging things to get to where you want to go. We preach you got to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. It's all those coachisms you hear.
Yep.
It's put yourself in those uncomfortable situations so that it's going to be easier for you down the road, and you're more open to accepting those challenges. It's an opportunity. It's something that's going to get you to where you want to be. You just have to go through it and do it. So yeah, embrace the toughness, embrace the suck, right? Is that Goggins? Doesn't he say stuff like that? David Goggins, you know him?
I don't know.
He's a guy that says that, but yeah, do things that are difficult, kind of, I guess is what I would say, and be open and be willing to learn, because that's what's really going to get you places and really going to get people to appreciate you as a person, as an athlete, and help you stick around. That's, well, like I said, what I like to think I tried to do, and what I'm trying to hopefully teach the guys too.
Yeah, there it is right there. Coach, thank you again for taking the time to join me. I hope to be on some more broadcasts next spring and, watch the program. Definitely be rooting for you guys at the back. And, of course, go Rhody.
Go Rhody. Let's go. Big football season now. Let's go.
Yep. Yeah, appreciate it again.
Best of luck. Thank you.